If you want to be a successful hunter, you first need to understand the animal you wish to pursue. With red deer, Niall Rowantree has it covered. A childhood and career surrounded by Britain's largest land mammal means the odds are typically in his favour. Not anymore. A move from the west coast to the east coast of Scotland has presented him with a new deer and a new challenge: Japanese Sika. In their homeland they are revered. Here they are an alien, hardy, clever, adaptable, therefore incredibly successful, and, in Niall's mind, Sika will become Scotland's dominant deer species.
They seem to be able to prosper in conditions where red deer won't.
To make that claim, he needs to explain why they're capable of outperforming their red cousins, the consequences of hybridisation, and to illustrate, using the latest thermal technology, when they're out of sight, they should never be out of mind.
They're clever. By the time you realise you've got Sika in your forest, they're probably already present at quite high densities.
It's a thing I've always wanted to be able to say. So standing here at the end of an old iron deer fence, we can say this is where the story really starts. So this is the epicentre of the tale we are about to tell about a year in the life of Japanese Sika. So here we are, David, overlooking Strathoichel, and importantly we're looking down onto Rose Hall, and we can see the remnants of deer fencing here. And as late as 1923 there was a deer park here, and it was quite an unusual and substantial deer park. So Rose Hall had about 2,000 acres enclosed. So this one had around 150 red deer in it. It had around 200 fallow deer in it. And interestingly, and not common in deer parks in the UK, it had 40 roe deer in it. And it also had a population of around 50 Japanese Sika. And Rose Hall is famous, or we could say notorious, as probably one of the major escape points for Japanese Sika, where they basically escaped into the wild. By 1950, the Sika deer had made their way from here to Lochimber, and my first encounter with them as a child was about 1977 at the Kyle of Tongue in the north coast of Sutherland, and that was Sika deer starting to spread there. But as if to add insult to injury, having let the Sika out, and you can barely plan it, this occurred. So government had decided, and had already set on its mission by that time, to expand the timber reserve. We might be hearing similar stories today about this urgent need to create a forest reserve in the UK and in Scotland. So having let out a predominantly woodland species, by accident or intent from the park on that side of the road, we then created a huge swathe of commercial forestry from here that goes all the way almost to the west coast at Benmorasant and right the way through into Ross-shire, and again all the way up into the middle of Sutherland. And Sika must have thought they had died and gone to heaven, because they found themselves in a habitat that they've prospered in, and this is how the whole Sika story got started.
Perfect storm.
Perfect, perfect. You can barely script it.
Come on, girls. Come on then.
From one Scottish deer park with holes in it to a brand new one in the south of England with a herd of Sika and axis deer.
Come on.
For many, fallow is the deer you'd associate with deer parks. According to deer manager Mike Allison, they're the nutty ones. You need Sika in your life.
For me, the Sika represent the pinnacle of the best park animal as far as I'm concerned. You know, if I was to set a new deer farm up now, it would definitely be Japanese Sika that I would be using as a farm species. They've got character, they look brilliant, and there's a huge future for them as a meat-producing animal as well. And from a handling point of view, they're so much easier to handle than fallow. You know, fallow I always find they're just a bit kind of neurotic, and you know, they're always paranoid and always think something terrible is going to happen to them. And usually they're right, you know, but Sika are just something really, really special. I wish they were native to this country. That would make them really special.
Clearly, Mike's a fan and can see a real future for this deer in our food chain. The problem is, they don't all live in a park. Most thrive in deep, dark, impenetrable forests. Now, these park deer were filmed at the start of June. When we see Neil again, it's August.
It's glamorous, this deer stalking line, isn't it?
Different times of the year have different challenges, David.
He's taking us to one of those deep dark forests, not far from Rose Hall in Scotland, to zero his brand new Blaser R8. This model is the Silence, and it's in 3006.
It's new to me. I've seen the development. I saw one of the earlier models. This is the R8 Silence. What's quite cool about this one is instead of having a thing that a lot of people don't like, which is the weight of the silencer right at the end, this one, the barrel is oversleeved or shrouded by the silencer. So I'll take it off here and you can actually see it. So there's the actual barrel of the rifle. This is in 30-06 caliber. I'm a big fan of 30 cals. The thing you notice about this rifle straight away is even without the moderator on, you can see how easily it's balancing there. The balance point is between my hands on this rifle. So it sits really nicely. And if you look at the weight of the moderator and the length of it, it's not a heavy structure at all. And the thing I really like about it, when you're walking with it in the woodland, it sits nicely on your shoulder. If you've got a big heavy moderator on the end, the rifle has a nasty habit of swinging away on you one way or the other. But this one sits nicely. And Erin, my daughter, she carried it the other day just for a wee bit when in the woodland we were red deer stalking. Her first comment was, "This is a nice light rifle to carry, Dad."
Also on the kit list is the Hornady Outfitter round. Neil has had a long association with both these brands.
You've always been a big fan of Hornady, Neil.
There's a number of reasons for it. What I find is there's a listening ear for us in Hornady, and over the years products have had to adapt because of what the market demands. It's not just a name, it's a family, it's a brand, it's also a listening ear. So Neil Davis has been very good with us, supporting the ammunition development and telling us what's going on and what's best suited. And it gave me a lot of confidence in the ammo, and the bullets perform, and particularly in the setting that you'll see over the next few weeks when we're culling Sika deer in woodlands. One of the biggest issues with Sika is shooting them and recovering them, because a chest shot, they can run considerable distances.
At this time of year, it's the calm before the storm. In a few weeks, Neil will be guiding clients when he hopes there will be fewer midges. Thankfully, the old nomad smock comes into play and provides protection from these Highland horrors.
I want some midge facts.
You want some midge facts? Well, I'm not a midge expert, but I can tell you the little I know. There isn't one Highland midge. There's fully 5 varieties of it. It's the females that are biting you, and they're biting you so they can reproduce successfully. And the cornerstone, they say, of the Highland ecology is the Chironoma pupa midge. Whether that's true or not, I could stand to be corrected. But I've given up blood over the years and hope that it was true.
Unfortunately, there's no Sika for us tonight. At the bottom of the valley, off Neil's block, we see Sika through Neil's Hike Micro Habrock thermal binoculars. As we said at the start, thermal tech is essential for Sika deer management when there is a commercial crop at risk. This footage is from the Pro HQ35L model, a high-quality image to help Neil make the best decisions. As we head down the road to another forestry block to test another piece of tech to help with reconnaissance, Neil spots a Sika hind. She has twins. We'll touch on multiple births later in this series. Entering full stealth mode, or so we hope, this one is the Evo 2 and is a similar price to a good quality thermal spotter.
So this is our first efforts with a thermal drone. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, I've seen some of the stuff that you've covered already, and some of the work that people like Ben Harrow and that have done with it, and you realise straight away that if you're going to try and monitor shy deer like Sika, these are going to become an essential part of our toolkit. So we're stood here at 5 minutes to midnight on a restock site that I knew there was deer active on, but I'm counting from left to right here. So you end up counting 19 deer where you thought there was about half a dozen. And even when we've used other systems like dung counts and that kind of thing, this adds an extra dimension to be able to see what's actually in an area. And shy stuff like Sika, you can see them there. There's 3 Sika there. There's another 2 Sika at the back of the woodland there. And we're sitting at a bit of height here so we can see them. There's another group, another 2 individuals, another 2 there, another one on the edge of the trees. It's a game changer, David, that's what it is. All of this thermal technology that we're working with, it's remarkable.
Drones are revolutionising deer management. A year ago we filmed Ben Harrower using a drone to conduct survey work around Paul Childerley's ground near Woburn in Bedfordshire. Knowing we are working on this Sika project, he kindly sends us some of his own Sika footage. It seems reasonable to suggest we'll soon have an accurate assessment of deer numbers in the UK, as long as that includes the cunning Japanese Sika and their stealthy ways. As Sika are playing hard to get, Neil takes us to new ground to make a point. First, fish and chips and chilled out deer.
Working lunch.
Yes.
He's crossing that in a quite timid fashion.
Actually, what you're telling me, you'll find here, if you look, you can see it's quite big boulders in the river. And what he's trying to do is find his way with his feet. So he's not swimming there, he's literally wading. And he's just taking his time picking his way across. They're quite a canny critter. And even though they've crossed there many times, they'll know there's big boulders there and they're just picking their way around them.
Nice haddock.
Good bit of fish. Good bit of fish. Good bit of fish.
Fish.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, so
I rate it.
Yeah, but you're on the sausage.
Yeah. That's what you usually get from a chippy.
Oh my god, what have you done with her?
I know. Just, it's a crofter's daughter, what do you expect?
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Let's leave that there and enjoy the vastness of the largest blanket bog in the world. The flow country covers more than 1,500 square miles, and UNESCO has just made it a World Heritage Site. Once on Neil's ground, it doesn't take long to see reds. This is so much easier.
Nobody in their right mind would go out after deer and midges like this.
Neil has actually worked out the additional time it takes successfully to stalk a Sika compared to a red.
It's just gone 5:30 in the afternoon, early evening, and already there are red stags more than 200 metres from the forest edge. And what we'll see over the next few days is that the Japanese Sika just don't behave that way. Not when they're under any pressure. I mean, there are populations that have never been touched. And as you saw, and you'll see the things of in Japan where they're sacred, where people never cull them, they adapt very quickly. But under pressure, Sika quickly become nocturnal and are very shy about leaving the edge of cover. And you'll see the difference. And the idea is just to create a contrast to show the difference in time and behavioural differences, even though they both serve a day.
But you've worked it out pretty much. Go on. Tell me what you man hours here.
What we would reckon here is we would kill 1 red deer every 2 hours. And in thicket woodland, Sika deer can be between 8 and 10 hours per kill. That's sort of the time commitment difference.
Wow. That makes a difference on bottom lines, doesn't it?
It makes a difference in bottom lines. It makes a difference when people are funding deer control programs. And it also needs to be borne in mind that what we're doing at the moment by pushing the red deer populations as hard is that we're creating a vacuum, and nature hates a vacuum, and the Sika will flood in to fill it. So as we create more habitat suitable to Sika, and we create more opportunity by reducing red deer numbers, if we're not a lot more focused about how we do it, and we don't spend sufficient time controlling Sika, we're going to end up at the very worst with a hybrid population that's extremely difficult to deal with. Or at best, we're going to put a lot of time and resources into trying to keep them at the current level they're at.
Right. Mickey's on the move.
Yeah, it's time to get cracking.
With Neil's daughter Erin in tow, we head towards the reds.
They've crossed the burn and they're trotting out into the middle there. What's happened? Any big changes in weather conditions, they will respond to it almost immediately. She's lovely. I'm very, very fond of them as an animal. There's a stag coming toward us, huh? And when he's trotting on like that, better just let him go.
15 minutes later we come to a busy clearing and Neil sets himself up for a shot. He manipulates the blazer sticks to give him the best rest for the R8 silence.
You on the near fella?
The shot is good and the red runs out of sight and drops.
I'm not going to shoot you, Alex, don't worry. But you see here the big differences between Sika deer and red deer. So if we just shot a Sika stag, everything Sika-wise would be gone. But now you've got a situation where the reds are coming toward you. And the group further down are just stood. But in fairness, that's probably the first beast you've seen shot with a blazer silence. And it's quiet. The two you're looking at, the one on the left is 2 years old, the one on the right is 4 years old. And the one I shot is 4 years old as well. And the two further down the ride, we'll hang on to them for later on in the season. There's a big old 6 and there was a good solid 10. So there's a number of deer have to come out here. So I made some decisions looking at him. One, he's very thin. See how thin his neck is. The antler's short. The points are short, the tops are small and they're irregular. The other guy was growing crowns. So the other guy was a 10 with crowns, this is a 10 with forks. The older stag further down, we'll catch him later in the year with a client, and the other guy again is a bit good. As you can see in this woodland, the density is just too high. So there has to be a reduction in numbers in here, particularly if they're going to do any restructuring of the woodland. So we need to, as selectively as possible, take as many stags up to the target out of here as we can in the next 2 months.
Okay.
This is probably the only stag personally I'll shoot in here this year.
Okay.
I would think everything else will be shot by clients.
Erin is keen to learn and Neil takes time to explain, not just how to stalk, but how to assess the animal and to learn from the decisions that he made.
So what we're trying to do is, she's just starting out in her deer stalking journey. So when you're back there before you take the shot, then really that's the ultimate decision time. When you come to here,
Rifle safe?
all you're doing is being a wildlife detective and confirming whether your decision was the right one or the wrong one. And even with the best intents, particularly when you're early in your hunting career, there will be occasions that you might shoot something and go,
Right, little one, you take that.
I wish I hadn't done that. But as long as your endeavours are the right thing, to look at the right antler growth, the right antler shape, the right conformation, and then you compare that with the body of the animal, then you've got to rely on your decision process and developing skills. And remember, this is different to other places you've shot deer with me, and the stags that are coming into your croft are twice the size of these. If you look at him for a stag of his age, his neck's really thin, and then you start doing a bit of inspection about him here, and okay, there's a bit of meat on his haunches, but his back's thin. And then when you start having a look about, and you should do as part of your process of checking hooves and all that kind of thing for health, you notice here quite clearly on the shin a broken bone. So you can actually put your hand on it for me, you can feel the break right through the bone there. Now my guess is with this, that when you see that type of break low in the leg, it's very often in the spring of the year and late in the winter when they're thin and they're hungry and they're jumping back and forward over stock fences. So this guy's either got caught in a railway fence, but he certainly hasn't got caught in a deer fence. So your wildlife detective brain immediately goes, well, we're inside an enclosed woodland here. So how did he break his leg on a stock fence? And the answer to my mind is fairly simple. He's come into this woodland. So he's probably come in with a broken leg, looking for shelter. He spent the summer trying to put on condition. And when we look at him, one of the things we look at, if you can come around behind me, David, and see it here, I'll cross over there. What you need to start doing is coming up with systems where you look at the welfare of deer. We'll come back to the lymph nodes in a moment, but one of the things I like to look at is kidney fat. Now this is August, and I would expect, if the stag was in tip-top condition, that when I picked his kidney up, and you can see with that one, that the kidney would be fully encased or completely covered. So you score that as a kidney fat score. So a completely covered kidney is a 5, a kidney with no cover on it at all is a 1 or 0 if it's absolutely bald. And if you look at this guy here, what do you think? Is he 50% covered? No, he's not. So his kidney is a 2. So that confirms that when you put your hand on his back here, the back's thin, the spine is sticking out. There's a little bit of fat in the brisket, but not a lot. The kidney fat score is low, the neck's thin. He's short, if you look at him. So really in stag terms, if you're going to pick between a stag to shoot and a stag not to shoot, he's a better guy to take away. The yearling that crossed in front of us half an hour ago was the better stag, just younger. But already he was that size. So this guy's probably, if he's lucky, 12.5 stone. So that's that bit of the job done now. What we're going to do is go and get the quad bike and bring him in. I'm looking to see where I'm going to get over.
Extracting animals of this size is always a consideration in the Highlands. It's dangerous work, especially on your own and when you're losing the light. Fortunately, Niall has done this a few times before and has a cute trailer to tow behind his quad.
Now, if it's a client's head, you would probably take it a bit more careful about how you tied it. But at this time of the season, the good thing to remember is that the antler, when it breaks velvet, is really sharp. And if that starts flying about the trailer, it'll go into your tyres. And that's pretty much enough to do for your hill trailer. So tie it off out the way, and then tie the excess strap out the road. Will you try the end of that?
Yeah, I know, it's called conceal.
It's a concealed weapon, that. But I always make sure tying the excess strap away so it doesn't get about wheels, and just stop the head from flying about.
With the stag extracted, we head home back through the flow country. The stags we saw earlier are now standing right in the middle of the river. Niall also gets a shot through the habrocks. Quite a sight.
I would imagine that the only place they're getting peace from the midges tonight stood out there in the middle of the river, catching the breeze. And I think it's just quite relaxing. They look quite relaxed stood there, don't they?
They do.
The empty-headed tribe. Never ceased to amaze me, the capers they go up to. I've seen them out on the hill in the summertime. I remember coming on a high quarry on Carawa, and they were all lying in the loch, and all that was sticking out the water was their heads. So they'd gone into the loch and lay down, and they were just sitting there with their heads sticking out the water.
In the next instalment, Niall finally catches up with the young Sika stag and allows us the opportunity to explore the physical differences between these closely related deer.
He's altogether more like a square-built body.
We'll also hear from deer biologist and author Professor Rory Putnam on why he believes Sika are taking on Scotland and winning.
Between species, it's usually the smaller species which can outcompete the larger one.
For more information about Niall's Blaser R8 silence, go to blaser.de. To learn more about the Hornady Outfitter Copper Alloy round, go to hornady.com. And for the thermal kit you've seen in this film, Scott Country International imports the Autel thermal drones and, of course, other thermal units such as the Hike Micro Habrock thermal binoculars. Find details at hikemicrotech.com.